Hi, and welcome back to another episode of Unscripted and Unchoreographed. I'm your host, Sarah, the dancer.
And Neve, the actor.
We have Holly Hughes on tonight, and I'm very excited to be chatting to you. It's great to have you on. How are you?
I'm very well. I should front load this. I'm recording from Sicily. I've taken myself away for a few weeks. So I'm actually doing a work away, which is like woofing. So I'm trading labor for free accommodation and delicious food. And I'm here for 3 weeks because I've decided as an artist that my brain needs a break. So I would say I'm doing really well.
That's amazing. I love though the way you're like, yeah, I'm taking a break from work, but you're sitting there talking to us, and I would consider this work. I think all artists are guilty of, yeah, I'm taking a break, and then you get 3 days into it and you're like, I'll have to do something else while relaxing.
Also, the fundamental thing with being any form of artist, whatever that means for you, is there is no break because the work is never done. So the brain is constantly thinking of the next idea or the next new thing. So there is no off button. So I would much rather take a pause in a warm place because I find the heat relaxing and I find it easier to not put myself under pressure when I'm in sunshine.
The fact that you've managed to get away for 3 weeks is amazing.
Well, I am a student, so that makes it a little bit easier. I do get to abdicate real life for another year while I do my master's. So I'm really reveling in that. I'm taking the summer breaks to be a student, even though I am a working adult.
Well, before we get on to your master's, we're going to go right back to the very beginning. How did you get started in the arts? Was it something that you picked up as a child, or was it something that started coming into your life later on?
Definitely as a child. I was listening to a few of your episodes today, actually, and it is such a cliche. I think for so many people, it's just something that was always there. There was never a time where you weren't creating. I'm very lucky to have been in a house that really facilitated so much creativity. If it was just coloring at the kitchen table, or my mom used to put food dye into washing up liquid so you could have different colored bubbles. Very, very simple things like that, but just there was this constant sense of play. I was the child who put on shows every single day in the back garden, in the living room, made everyone watch them. I'm one of 5 kids as well, so grasping for attention was definitely a thing for me. And so I just was always performing, always. I learned self-consciousness and turned more to writing. In school, English was my favorite subject. We'd have to write a 2-page essay. I would write 7 pages and it still wouldn't be done. It wasn't even a choice. It was just something that I had to do. And it still very much feels that way now. I definitely divorced from it as I kind of moved through life. And so much of that was down to just believing that a certain kind of person was an artist, a certain kind of person was an actor or performer. And that was fantastic, but it wasn't for me. And so this was a lovely thing to do as a pastime, but I wasn't good enough to ever even begin to make a career out of it. I wouldn't even know or have known where to have begun. So as I went into secondary school, having been one of the principal characters in every primary school production, suddenly getting into that bigger pond of secondary school, when auditions came around for the school musical as a first year, I was too scared. I was like, no, that was a primary school thing. And in that environment, I was able to perform, but that wasn't real. In this environment, no, I'm not an actor. I can't be one of the theater girls or whatever. And it was only then when I was in my later years in school and we actually had to do a school musical as part of our transition year program that I finally got back into it. And then when I went to college and wanted to study creative writing, but didn't think that I was good enough, and also was a recession teenager, at the back of my mind was doing something that would lead to some form of job security. That just felt so embedded in the psyche, even if the pressure wasn't coming from my parents. Having gone through the crash as a teenager and seeing what that did, doing something as wishy-washy as creative writing or drama just didn't even feel remotely like an option. And the pressure to make that work and make that succeed, so the gamble would have paid off because it would have been my parents paying my fees, just felt like way too much pressure for me. And so I went and did what every person who doesn't know what they want to be when they grow up does, and I did an arts degree instead. And even then, I started in UCD, and I remember going to the drama society and I was like, I'm gonna do this because I love to do it. I went to the open day and immediately was like, this is cutthroat. I do not have the resilience for this. This is absolutely not for me. This is all way too serious. No, thank you. And then that was the end. I did end up moving to Galway because I did not enjoy UCD. And I did do a few productions there, but it was a very light dabbling. And then I was out of that student environment where you could just join societies and clubs, apart from a passing fancy to find an amateur drama society wherever I happened to be living at the time. That was it. I kind of just like got on with being a grown up, kept writing, and then used writing as a career. I worked in communications and public relations, and then did a bit of freelance writing. But that would have been the extent that I was involved, I would have said, in creativity up until like 3 years ago.
So it's quite recent that you're coming back into the arts kind of from having like a normal job.
That sense of like the 9 to 5, and the thing that people aren't like, and what's that now? That kind of socially acceptable of, you say your job title and everyone's like, yes, that. Although no one actually knows what public relations really is. I'm not sure I fully did when I was doing it either.
What is public relations?
It's a mix. It's not quite marketing or advertising, but it's in a similar vein. It varies. It's basically you work with different clients or organizations, and you basically try and spread the good word of whatever it is they're doing through social media, through media relations. So you're trying to get like press releases out, you're trying to pitch them for interviews, and so you're basically the link between product and a client and getting it out into the world. The major difference being between things like advertising and marketing, you're not paying for coverage. So with an ad, you'd be like, okay, I want to be, in the Irish Times or whatever. Advertising space will clearly have your ad, and it's a very in-your-face sales pitch, where something like public relations is more nuanced. You're pitching the CEO because they have a really interesting trajectory as an entrepreneur, and then by very virtue you're promoting the product. It's kind of that kind of idea. So you're pitching to media. In this day and age, you would like work a lot with influencers. I wasn't really involved in that side, and you're basically just trying to push businesses, ideas, whatever it is.
Is it like a stressful job?
Yes, I would say. Now, I wasn't in it for very long. Like, I did 2 internships as part of I did a postgrad. So basically, I finished my arts degree, which was in English and French, which I loved. And I wanted to do a postgrad in literature. But at that point, I just felt like I could not do another degree. And it was like I would have graduated in 2016. And at that point, the humanitarian crisis around migrants, refugees, and asylum seekers was particularly bad. I was finding it really, really difficult to sit in this like academic institution, like reading my little books and talking about like the misogyny in Samuel Beckett, when all of this like real world stuff was happening and I felt completely kind of powerless. The only way that I felt like I could help was ironically through public relations, because with that kind of career you can work in communications for charities and NGOs. Médecins Sans Frontières, Doctors Without Borders, who was the organization that I really, really, really wanted to work with. So I was doing like the sensible postgrad in public relations, and I said, I'm going to do that, make loads of money, because allegedly it was really lucrative, and then when I have all my money and I can independently pay for my artsy fartsy postgrad, I will go back and do that. And then I ended up from that postgrad working for an Irish NGO in communications. And so that was a lovely job. Had a really beautiful 9 to 5, worked with lovely people. It was a really small team. Had a great work-life balance, loved the work that I was doing. And that was like, as a graduate, I was like 25 maybe. Whereas all of my friends were generally doing ridiculous hours, stressed to the nines. And because a lot of it would be like events based, it's a strange and weird world. It is very stressful in a way that makes absolutely no sense when you break down what most pure people are trying to like push. We need those jeans to be in that magazine, or we need this, whatever. Do we really need to be stressed about this? Potentially not. But yes, hugely stressful, hugely fascinating. I did my internships, learned loads, and then was like, peace.
So you were working away, having your normal 9 to 5 job. How did you then get into the arts?
I'm just like, am I in the arts? When do you know? Like, I've obviously had a Seen and Heard show, but like, still, I'm just like, but I might never get something like that again. Like, that was a bit of a fluke. Like every woman in 2017, I started a blog, like post Me Too. I was like, I've got something to say. I think my first piece was about Me Too. Just that whole era of feminist writing on the internet. What a ride that was. My next piece was about cycling, I remember, and I loved writing it. I can't remember what it was about, but it was like 4,000 words about the experience of my bike, which was called Destiny, and how much I loved my bike. Anyway, I was doing that kind of writing. So I had this blog, It was on Blogspot. And with the skills in public relations, I learned how to pitch. And so I basically cold called editors on New Year's Eve. Basically, my creative journey into the arts has always been me just being like, stop talking about doing the thing and just do it. And then me just being like, okay, I'm just going to do it. Blah, blah, blah. And so I did that. And then I emailed editors and I got into like freelance writing, which is basically, again, calling myself a freelance feels decadent. But I would be like, I have this idea. Are you interested? And occasionally they would say yes, and then it would get printed. So I was doing that. Then I quit my job and I moved to Australia, and I was just a bartender, waitress, worked on building sites, like living day to day. But I was writing a lot. Again, on a New Year's, I think I'd started to write poetry, but I was doing this real apologist thing where I was like, I had like a newsletter, so I'd kind of like send out these missives into the world for whoever felt like listening to them or reading them while I was traveling. But I would get then really embarrassed about what I was doing, so I was just like, I wrote this thing, and then I'd be like, no, don't talk about it, don't look at me. And I was just like, this is really boring. Like, it's getting really old, just being like, am I even a good writer? You believe so much in the pursuit of what you're doing that you're willing to spend hours alone writing these things. And then, not only that, sending them out into the world. So, like, can we just stop the really, really boring woman apologizing for taking up space in existing thing? I remember my sister was living in Sydney at the time, and I went to visit her for Christmas. And we went to Luna Park, which is a children's theme park. And we were up on this slide. It was a kid's slide, but it was really sheer drop down. I was so scared. I just could not push myself off and like take like the leap. And I was like, this is a metaphor. You are refusing to put yourself into dangerous spaces. You're refusing to like put yourself into environments where like you don't know how it's going to work out. You actually want to do this thing, and you're not being very honest about it. You're like half-heartedly doing it. You're hiding behind a screen. You either just need to, I think this is an Australian expression, like shit or get off the pot. I'm going to shit, and I'm also going to do this slide now, and this is going to be the intention that I'm setting for next New Year. That was 2022 going into 2023. And so basically the very next week I found an open mic night in my local town where I was living in Western Australia, and I emailed them very eagerly asking could I be put on for the next slot. I don't think I even knew what I was going to read at that point. For me, the whole journey has been like going back to that kid who wore 4 skirts, 7 necklaces, 3 dresses all in one go and would like put on these shows. Like, I do feel like my journey as an adult has been feeling like I needed to do all of these things to prove to people that I was worthy and that I was on the right path and that like I had worth. And then realizing that all of that was a fallacy, and actually we should always be playing, and we should be seeking out play and creativity in any form we can for as long as we can. Poetry has been my rediscovery of that, and getting up on stage and then performing my own words was like how I can access that. Yeah, a week later I got up on stage and I read my very first poem for the very first time. It was intoxicating. It was horrific. I was getting sick beforehand. And I was like, why would I put myself out there like this? This is horrible. And then obviously immediately the rush. And I think like the rush also of like sharing something so vulnerable. It's not just commendation for your performance, it's commendation for things that you've experienced, that you've had, or things that you've thought, and then the way that you have chosen to express them through a poem or whatever. I remember just standing there being like, I'm so happy and I want to do this all the time. Then the next day had a horrible emotional hangover. I was like, oh my God, you've exposed yourself in public like this. I don't know if you get this, but like I really do struggle having so viscerally put myself out there. Like I love attention, but I really struggle with it in a very overt way. And after I perform, I feel like everyone who stares at me is like x-raying into my soul, and I feel like deep shame. So anyway, I got over that, and then I just started doing it again. And so I was doing that in Australia, and I was performing poetry. I've been writing all these poems over the years. Like I had this one about brunch that's probably one of my favorite poems. It's like 1,000 words long. No one was ever going to publish it because it's not like literary. And I was like, is this even a poem? But I just really enjoyed writing it. It's about a really bad brunch experience that I once had. And then when I started performing, I was like, oh my God, I didn't realize at the time, but I was like, these are all performance poems. Like these aren't meant to be read. These are meant to be said out loud. And I just didn't realize. And so through performing, I was like, oh my God, I have this entire catalogue. And so it kind of like led from there. And so I was kind of just doing that randomly in Australia. There's no plan or momentum. I was just like, this is kind of fun. And then I decided that I wanted to do a master's in creative writing. I was turning 30. I was embarking on my 3rd year in Australia. And once again, I was like, you need to shit or get off the pot. I was living in this town that was paradise. I was working in a bar and I knew that that wasn't sustainable. And I was like, okay, I either need to get a job that is going to like fulfill the different parts of me in a more meaningful way than this currently is, or like what am I doing, you know, like I either need to like really root down into this life, or I need to move and do something else. I've been looking at the creative writing masters in Limerick in UL, which is where I now am, for like almost a decade. I always was like, one day, because I never did it for my undergrad, and it was always in the back of my mind. I have no regret about how I've chosen to go about it, because I don't think 18-year-old me would have been in any way ready to make the most of that experience when I was so young. Yeah, turning 30, and it's not even about like my age. It's more about seeing the different people in my life get into serious relationships, start to like get into careers that like they're probably going to be in for the rest of their lives. Parents, health issues, and suddenly needing to be closer to home or to be more available. Kids, all of these things, all of which I'm like very lucky to not have to deal with right now. I was like, I have this narrow slice where I get to be completely selfish, which is such a joy and a gift and such a great thing for an artist. And I was like, I need to seize it now. And so I like applied and I got in. I started the creative writing masters last September, and I'm doing it part-time over 2 years. I moved back to Ireland last June. No real idea what I was going to do. Definitely did not see performing as being something that I was necessarily going to pursue. Because in Australia, I've just been kind of like, oh, there's an open mic night, we'll go there. I've been in like one slam poetry like competition, and I hated it because you were publicly judged. Board score you out of 10. Everyone can see what you get scored. I'm a woman living under patriarchy. Like I don't need any more public judgment. So I was like, never doing that again. I got back to Ireland, and then everything has just happened really like naturally. Like I did a Shanakiha event down in West Cork where I'm from when I came back. That led to meeting great people, and they were like, I've got this thing you should kind of come to. One thing has kind of just led to another. And then being on my course and being surrounded by other writers, it's like other people who are like involved in the arts in all these different ways. So they hear of things that are happening and things you can apply for that I just had no idea existed. That's how like Seen and Heard happened. It was actually a Shanakia story that I wanted to tell, and I never ended up telling it. And I was like, oh, this is kind of funny. Maybe I'll just throw this script in. And then it kind of got chosen. Then I ended up having like a Seen and Heard show. Yeah, the journey in has been like very rambly, much like my current monologue. And I still don't feel like I'm not going to do that annoying thing where people pretend that they're completely passive and things are just happening to them, because I find that really annoying and it's also not true. I'm basically just throwing so much shit at the wall at the moment, seeing what sticks, like right across the spectrum of like poetry, spoken word, then like written stuff. We're just trying and we're just going for it, because I'm now 32 and like I'm very, very tired, and I think my energy will run out like relatively soon. So I'm like, now is the chance to just try everything and see what happens.
We've had a few people say if they could go back and do their course now, they feel they would get a lot more out of it. Do you feel maybe you're getting more out of it doing your master's later rather than straight after your undergrad?
Yes, I was thinking about this today actually, because I was at an event last week and I met all these like young theatre people who were like in their early 20s, and I do have to actively stop myself from just feeling pure rage, because I'm like, if I had known, you know what I mean? Of just being like, I'm just like, you're so young and so talented and already so knowledgeable. Like you're getting to try so much out. I think the thing that I've noticed is like exposure is everything. Like if you are around creative people, it automatically impacts how you move through the world, the kind of experiences that you have, and also the kind of opportunities you put yourself out for. Because first of all, you're in an environment where that's just like the norm. And second of all, you're supported to kind of do that. And so I do kind of have those moments where I'll meet a radiant 23-year-old and I'm just like, I hate you. But that's momentary. And that's also patriarchy. But no, I am that person who doesn't really believe in regrets. Any regrets I do have, I'm very grateful to have them, because all they are lessons and motivators for change. They're not even mistakes. It's just like, oh, hindsight would have been great, but I have the hindsight now and I will never ever doubt that again or do that again. I think probably my biggest regret in life is how I treated my undergraduate degree, because it was kind of like a given, which is such a privileged thing to say. And the kind of school that I went to, like most people went on to third level education. It was just a thing that everyone kind of did, that I did not appreciate what it was like to be in hallowed halls of learning and to just be like surrounded by books and ideas, and even all the extracurricular stuff of just being like, you get to try on so many different identities and you get to figure out so much about yourself. And there probably is no way to do it right, but this time, like, I would say I came back with a vengeance. I was the first person to put my hand up for being class rep. That's the energy that I would have brought to this master's. I would almost say to my own detriment. Like, I took an extra module this semester because I was like, I'm going to squeeze every last bit of knowledge out of this thing. And also, the other thing I will say, specific to my master's as well, like, am I one of the youngest? Can I really say that? I'm definitely on the younger side of the spectrum of the people doing my course. Like, thank God, because with something like creative writing, you need experience. You need to have had all of these life events. You don't know who you are most of the time when you're in your early 20s. You've so much to figure out. And writing can be the vehicle for that. But it's all still quite raw. And so I feel very lucky to have had like the age and the experiences that I've had to bring me to this. But feel even more lucky for all the other people I'm around who have decades of more experience on me. And like, for all of us, doing this course has been a very conscious choice. And there's like a very magical energy about that, where you have made sacrifices, you have saved up, you have gone out of your way to rearrange your life to make this happen. Like, one woman commuting from Kerry and like has a young kid and is still working part-time. The sacrifice people have made to be there means that it's just a really special experience, because everyone knows what they've been through in order to like let themselves have this. Because it does feel so decadent to be like, I'm just gonna go study poems and words and just write things and then talk about writing things. But it's fantastic. It's the best thing I've ever done.
And that leads me on to Seen and Heard. You heard of it while doing your master's. How did you find applying for it? Your show was inspired by a personal experience. How did you take that experience and put it onto paper in, can I say, as an audience member, in quite a hilarious way? I did love it, and I wasn't expecting it to be as funny as I thought it would be. I don't know if I can say that, but
So, Seen and Heard, I think I found out about it through a friend. And the application process, I mean, since then, I have done several other applications, i.e. Fringe. And so Seen and Heard feels like a walk in the park comparatively. Because for me, all of these applications have just been like trial by fire. Like, I've never done anything like them before. I've no idea what anyone's looking for. The idea of a budget, I was like, I'm so sorry, I don't understand what you mean. I remember being in UL Library doing the Seen and Heard application and just having a great time. That gorgeous thing of when you have nothing to lose. And I remember like having this talk with myself, because I think when I first saw it, I felt very, very daunted. And again, I have been like a poetry performer, but I have no other stage experience or anything. And so I really did feel very out of my depth. And I think I did get a bit spooked looking at the application. But then I had a little chat with myself and I was like, okay, if I'm going to do this, like, I'm going to do it on my terms, and I'm not going to try and morph myself into what I think they're looking for. I'm going to give them what I have, be completely myself in this application, see what comes from that. So the Seen and Heard show is called I Want to Speak to Your Manager, How I Was Radicalised and Became Karen. And it is a completely true story about how I have become quite fond of complaining. It's all true. As you will know if you've seen the show, I like do like a dramatic reading of complaint emails, and it came, as all things do, from just like stories that I would tell in the pub. Some of the things I'd done were really funny, and I kind of just put them together for a Shanakia show. I've done a few Shanakias, and I only got into those because I wanted to see my friend perform, and it was sold out. And the only way I could get in was by telling a story, and I was like, well, I guess I'll just tell a story then. And it's kind of just kept going. So that's basically what it was. And then I was just like, will I just throw in this script for the crack? And it was really rough, really like raw, but I just had a great time with it. So because I've kind of had this ongoing newsletter blog, which I've always used as a forum to just share funny things that have happened to me, or not always funny, but I almost exclusively write nonfiction. I wish I had imagination. I just don't. I keep trying to write short stories and I just can't do them. So I do tend to write from a place where most of it is inspired by my real life. But like, I am just so fascinated by like people and moving through the world. So that's what I've kind of primarily always written about. And because I've always kind of written for consumption, I will write things that I plan to share on the internet. For me, it didn't really feel like a transition. I think my huge fear with the Seen and Heard show was that it wasn't going to be theatrical enough, or it wasn't going to be enough of a performance. Again, only having had Shanakia experience where you can just stand in front of a microphone and tell a story. And I would usually tell funny stories. And I knew that I could kind of do that. The script kind of was just there. Like from my original submission, I didn't find working it overly difficult. The thing I found difficult was curtailing it. I think it was supposed to be a 15-minute slot. I don't think I gave a 15-minute performance. I found editing really, really hard. My fear was almost the other way around. I was like, how do I put the words onto the stage, because I was really nervous that my sheer like presence wasn't going to be enough. And I know nothing about movement and how to work a stage and just all of those kind of little grace notes. And so, to be honest, I completely winged it. Like it was a one-woman show in every sense of the word. I did write an original pop song for it. One of my friends helped me with that. He did all the music and everything, and that was class. But like, I didn't have a director, I didn't have a producer, I didn't have anyone. And I also refused help. Lots of people did offer to help me. I just wanted to see if my instincts were right. So I was just like, let's just try. I had 2 shows. I remember the first night, like that very much felt like a dress rehearsal. Like my first time actually running through the show with props. I kind of had just imagined it before. And I remember in my head being like, oh, no. This is why we practice. And this is why we maybe get other people on board. Right. Like kind of refined it for the second night to make it more polished. But yeah, I've always loved words. I feel like that's my strength when I'm writing them down. I feel like where I've all the learning to do now is like how I can properly like bring them to life.
That's amazing to have done all that yourself.
Amazing or stupid?
Because there's an element of, now I want to see how much I can do, but I have to ask, because the role you're playing is that you become a Karen. Your movement is that you put on jackets and sunglasses, and you put on a wig at one point. That did
Yes,
happen, didn't it? Yeah,
that
you
did
put on
happen.
a wig and you slowly physically become what a lot of people would imagine as a Karen. How did that come about?
It just came to me. I don't know where it came from. I was having like lots of conversations about it, which was just so fun. Like there is like a note on my phone, a running like list of Karen things. My friend and I talking about it. And we're like, we could do this and we could do that. I think it came from, okay, this is a great story at a storytelling night where no one's really expecting anything. But I was like, I'm going to be in a theatre. I'm going to be in a theatre festival. There needs to be something more. I knew that like I was not going to have any fancy lights because I didn't know anyone who could operate them. I wasn't going to have any like gimmicks. I was like, I need something to like keep attention and momentum that's not just me talking, because like I'm not sure if you've had this experience of like when you're on stage and it's just you, like 15 minutes is actually quite a long time to expect people to just listen to you. So it came from that place of being like, I need something. I don't really have any other talents or anything else up my sleeve. Yeah, I just was like, wouldn't it be really funny to get dressed as a Karen? So basically what happens in the show, you're dead right. I tell all these anecdotes that get incrementally worse. So the first one starts off as just like, I send a drink back, and then it kind of like escalates. So with each anecdote, then I don another like stereotypical Karen outfit. And so the real work was deciding what exactly I was going to put on. So I put on a North Face gilet, and I was like, I hope people get this. And they did, and that was great. And then I put on like obviously the classic big sunglasses. And then the pièce de résistance is the wig that I chopped myself. And it was really funny. I only went through the Seen and Heard feedback the other day. And I think the only negative comment I got was better wig, question mark, because it is a truly heinous wig. So yeah, that's where it came from. But like that's why I just loved doing that show so much. And I am hoping to like build it out. But the thing with building it out is I'm like, what can I put on next? I put on everything. There's nothing left. I was thinking about maybe trying to put on like really long, like acrylic nails on stage. I thought that would be really, really funny.
It was simple but super effective. I loved it.
Oh,
I thought it
thank
was
you.
hilarious.
Thank you.
It was a brilliant show, and I do hope at some point you get to do it again.
Yeah, I'm hoping to build it out and make it bigger and better. Again, I'm like, take it places. I've no idea where, and again, I have no idea how anything like works. I don't know how you like get it in front of people. I'm definitely gonna try. I'm thinking maybe Karen becomes a mature student, which again is very true to my life. I feel like that could be, maybe that's the direction I take her. I'm not sure yet.
You can do all the like children books where it's like, oh, Karen goes to school, Karen takes the bus, Karen's whole life experience,
Oh
Karen
my
goes
God,
to
I'm
the
sorry.
zoo.
I'm going to write that down and I'm going to credit you. That's
Go
brilliant.
for it.
Oh my God, that's really.
Oh my God, you can make it a series. You could like have it
Yeah.
like 3-minute like clips of like Karen did this week. I don't know if that's like finding a lot of things to have to complain about though.
But I mean,
guess
as a nation, it's a topic that everyone can get in on some level. If you hate Karens, if you are a secret Karen, which I actually think that most people are, it's just so satisfying and juicy to talk about. Like, I don't know why. I find it so entertaining, and hearing what people have done, and like it's been really funny since the show. Like because I've now become synonymous in people's minds with Karen, and so friends will just text me every time that they do something that's Karen like, and they're like, thought of you. I didn't mean to become like the poster girl for being really difficult, but like I had a friend who like got a really bad haircut, said nothing, left the hairdressers, and then walked back, and they were like, they like sent me a voice note en route being like, I'm going back. I'm not taking this. And they like thought of you. And so they stormed back in and demanded for it to be fixed, which I actually would never do. I am the person who would say something probably in the moment, but I would not leave, pretend everything's fine, and then come and then storm the premises. I actually feel like I'm not Karen enough. Yeah, I feel like I'm actually too well behaved. I think I need to pull off some really heinous shit and then just call it poetic license, artistic license.
I think with Irish, because we can't even take a compliment without making some kind of scene. So the thought of complaining, classic stories of you've been given the wrong dinner at a restaurant.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, but it's fine. It's like, oh no, they're busy. And you're like, no, it's their job. You got the wrong dinner. But there is that thing inside. It's like, no, but it's fine. Or it's like, oh, I asked you without cheese, but it's fine. I'll eat it. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
I'll only have
But you
like
were still
severe
pointing
allergic
out that it
reaction.
was supposed to be without cheese. Yeah. You're not actually like, it's not fine. Yeah, I love it so much.
And I think maybe that's why the whole Karen thing, well, a lot of the Karens, they seem to be more American and they seem to have that more gusto or something like, I don't know, they're more confident with their opinions or something.
The audacity.
That's a brilliant word, actually.
Yeah.
Brilliant word.
Audacity. Well, I'm trying to rebrand it as assertiveness.
Yeah, that could work.
Yeah. Which I think it is a lot of the time. I think that's what I'm trying to get across in my show. Why should we accept subpar service? I don't believe that we should, Demand the world you want.
Yeah, with your show, when you hear Karen, you have that like almost small bit of anxiety if you're like, oh no, she's gonna just make a scene and what's gonna be loads of drama over nothing. Like when you see those videos of Karens like getting in people's faces because they're parking their car outside their house and this Karen is like, but you don't live here. And you're like, yes, I do. I live here. I park my car here. I what are you doing? And now you're calling the police on someone who's parked their car on their own property. And you're just like, oh my God. But with your show, you kind of turn it the other way. It's almost like the world has painted you as this Karen, but you're just not demanding even, you're just pointing out you got a really bad service. Because the story is about you hired a caravan and it breaks down and it's terrible. This has impacted your holiday. You spend money to enjoy yourselves and have time away from worries. You're writing to this company saying, well, this caravan was terrible and it's impacted my holiday and that's not fair. And that thing of, there's a difference between being a Karen and getting in people's faces because they're not allowed to park on their own property. And no, you just gave me a bad service. And I think that was what I found very unexpected about the show in a very good way.
Oh, thank you.
How did you create this version of Karen, and what was people's responses to her? Because I know even for myself, I was sitting there expecting this Karen to go off at just something ridiculous, but actually you sit there and you go, no, actually she had a terrible holiday, a terrible experience, and yes, she should have a refund.
I'm glad that was the correct response. People responded so well. I did know a lot of people in the audience, like friends and family came, and that was really lovely. And so obviously they said it was great. Do I have a lot of these experiences? If I'm being very honest, no, because I am actually nice. I don't complain about everything, which is actually a problem in trying to build the show out further. I generally move through the world with ease. Things very rarely go wrong. What that means is when things do go wrong for me, I make an incredibly big deal out of it because I'm so not used to the friction. Like one small thing, I will be like, I don't understand. What do you mean there's a red light? Like this was not part of my day or whatever. And so I think that I tend to overreact because I refuse to accept that things can't go my way all of the time. Not a very great grown up in that sense. But I'm very inflamed by any form of injustice. It doesn't matter how petty it is. Like that situation with the camper van, my friend who I was traveling with, like she was like, just let it go. I was hounding them. Like I was buying extra credit on my New Zealand phone. Credit is so expensive over there just to keep calling them. And she was like, Holly, like, what are you trying to prove? And I was like, but they did us wrong. They did us wrong. They shall pay. Lots of content in the sense that my reactions tend to be quite disproportionate anytime someone wrongs me. But generally life's pretty good. And then people's response, I was nervous about the switch. And I think because up until performing it at Seen and Heard, it had just been me alone in my room to the point where I didn't think that the show was funny. And I was really like, oh God, how is this going to go? And then I remember walking out, and because the lines were just so old to me by that point, and I think this shows my inexperience as well, I was so surprised when people were laughing. And then I was like, people are laughing too much because I'm about to get serious in 5 seconds, and like they're all hysterical. Like at one point in the show, I do compare Karen to Rosa Parks, and I meant that completely seriously. Like I was fully being earnest, and everyone burst out laughing. And I was like, no, I'm making an impassioned speech here about how we all need to be Karens because we need to save ourselves from fascism. And everyone's like, so the response was really good in some respects, in other respects. And I think that's something, that part of the show where I do talk about, like, because ultimately Karen is a construct of misogyny. Where is the male equivalent? He doesn't exist. If he does exist, it's Luigi Mangione, and that man is a hero. If a woman did that, she would not be the same status. And so that was something that I really wanted to play with and look forward to playing with a lot more. Because again, like, what are Karen's crimes? What are Karen's crimes? You know, she just stands up for what she believes in. She asserts herself, and she demands everyone to be better. And I think that that is very important in this world. And the inconvenience piece of it. I am, when I was writing it, it would have been post Trump's election. He wouldn't have yet been in office, but he would have won the election. Just with everything that was happening in the world, out on the streets every week for Palestine, and nothing seeming to be happening. I really do feel like we are at this crucial juncture in humanity. If we've not already slightly missed it, and like if we all don't revolt, all the bad things you think are going to happen are going to happen. I think so much about like activism, and I think after Trump got elected, and I have felt really, really, really depressed in a deep bone marrow kind of way of where we go from here. The tactics don't seem to be working. What do we do? And something that I come back to is the power of being a little bit inconvenient, of just being a bit difficult. It's not grand, noble things that are necessarily going to change the world. It is just like small acts of discomfort. Because if you are just a thorn in the side, you will eventually get listened to. And to me, that's what Karen is. And that's the journey that I want to bring people on. I did have a couple of women come up to me and just say that they really needed to hear that there was this one woman who had been having a difficult time at work with a male colleague who was just like the classic stuff of like not listening to her, not valuing her opinion, talking over her, kind of just general like workplace gender dynamics that do happen quite often. And she was like, I really needed to see this. She's like, I'm going into work tomorrow with that sense of resilience of being like, no, I'm not fucking taking this. I know my shit. I know what I'm doing. You need to listen to me. That's what I want more, because I have been the nice girl. I want everyone to like me. I really, really, really struggle to like be difficult externally. Internally, I'm very, very difficult. Like, I have exceptionally high standards, but externally, I am so preoccupied with everyone liking me, and so I have found lots of freedom. And I'm not sure if you've ever like complained, like that feeling of when you get what you want after all the internal labor of being like, can I occupy this space? Like, what if they hate me? Especially if you worked in hospitality and you've been that person, like I have. I don't ever want to make the waiter's life harder. But then when you get what you want and you feel that vindication and that like freedom, it's just like, oh my goodness, I could maybe feel like this all of the time. Particularly when what you're asking for, like you said, it's not about being unreasonable and it's not about being difficult. It's just like, hey, I'm a vegetarian and you've given me chicken. So I did tell you I was a vegetarian. I can't eat this. You do need to do something about this. Thank you so much for your time. Writing this character and spending so much time with her has actually changed me. I do feel myself lean in more. And I think that that's actually like a really, really good thing that I'm very happy about for me and that I would like more people to like embrace. Because I think particularly as women constantly submit to the needs of others. And I am personally sick of it because men are ruining this world and I would really like for them to stop. And so any way that I can achieve that, I will do. That got really ranty. I'm so angry at the moment. I'm sorry. Everything.
I would vote for you for president if you went, because I think that was very well said.
Thank you very much. I can't even bear to think of Michael D no longer being our president.
He was such a good president. He really is. This is our final question we ask everyone. Imagine you have a magic wand. There are no limits to what you can do. Is there anything you think the government can do to help artists or make artists' lives easier in any aspect?
Would like basic income because I'm very new to this and I'm still trying to figure it all out. I am struggling even with the whole like getting my head around like paying myself as an artist now, which I absolutely think that I should be doing. We're so indoctrinated into this idea that because we're doing something that we're passionate about, that we're getting emotional compensation, so we shouldn't be financially compensated. And I think that is rubbish, and it really, really, really angers me. Like the issue that I'm struggling with now is just finances. I currently have like 3 or 4 different jobs. I was an extra on a TV show for ridiculous money for 10 hours of my day, clapping and looking happy. Very hard in this political climate. I substitute teach in my old secondary school. I copyright. I will do whatever I can just to make ends meet because I basically have this spreadsheet of deadlines for things. If it's like submitting to a journal or submitting an application for XYZ. And as I'm sure you both know, these things take so much time. It's really, really hard to find the time to do them. But it's even harder to do it when you feel like you're not even going to be successful. And so there's even no financial compensation at the end of it. It does often feel like a waste of your own time. And I was like, imagine if I had basic income. And so that when I was sitting down to do these things that are kind of low-key soul destroying, you were like, I'm getting paid for this time. It's not even about getting paid. It's buying myself time to create rather than stealing these minutes. And like, I'm obviously in a very privileged position at the moment where I am a student. And so much of my life does get to be creation. But I refuse to accept that because we're artists or because we cannot help but create, we have to do it at 8 p.m. on a weeknight. We've got to siphon off a few hours on a weekend. And that because we get joy from it, we shouldn't get paid for it. Yeah, I would really love to see basic income for artists, like access to spaces, all of those things needs to happen. But for me, like staring down the barrel of like, how do I begin to make this work with my finite resources and also importantly, finite energy? Utopia would be imagine getting paid. And like the other thing that I think about, if you apply for a normal job or whatever, you go through an interview process, right? And that can be very rigorous. But then once you get the job, you get the job. And you don't have to interview again unless you decide you want to leave that job. And what I'm coming up against at the moment is that you have to interview for every single new project you do as an artist. And I think that is good and important. So it's not, well, they were good once and therefore they'll be good again. And that stops like new talent or emerging talent coming through. But the relentlessness of it and how exhausting it is, and to do all of that in your own free time while juggling other jobs, I just think it's really, really, really hard. And I think it's really hard to talk about because people think you're being moany and whingy, and it's like, you chose this. And I'm like, not really a choice, because you can't not do this thing, right? Like, if you're an actor, if you're a dancer, it's because you have to. I'm doing this because I have to do it. It's like exercise. I go crazy when I don't do it. I don't love doing it most of the time, but I have to do it for my own well-being. I personally, at the moment, I've just worked so many jobs, and I hate how stressed I am about money all the time. And I hate that that is getting in the way of me getting to work and create. And I think that artists contribute so much to society now more than ever. I'm getting really ranty again, but we give so much free art out to the world. And it's not that I want to be compensated for it. I don't want to have my art tied to a monetary value, because I think that's a really dangerous space to exist in. But I would just really, really love to be able to do that without being like, right, okay, so I'll go down now to West Cork to work that substitute week, and that will give me €400. Okay, and that will be enough that I can live off for the next few weeks. I'm going up to Dublin to get €60 at best for a poetry gig. €30 of that is spent just getting there and back. So it's a 5-hour round trip. For 5 hours plus the 20 minutes, whatever, that I'm on stage, I walk away with €30. I'm just like, the maths don't maths. That I would really love income and the freedom that would buy.
Well, I think it would be amazing if the income for artists could continue. The few people we have spoken to who have gotten it, it just seems to have changed their lives in such a positive way. Like, I really haven't heard anything negative about it. Yes, they still need to have some kind of side job to keep things going, but like that, they don't need to have 3-4 jobs and constantly be on the lookout for something. It's that extra help, and they're able to create their work and give more time to their work. So they're able to create better quality of work and immerse in it more. It would just be great if it could continue, and fingers crossed the government does continue to keep it or just do something with it. Like, you don't hear anything about it, but you don't hear anything about the arts. It's all about the children's hospital and that mess at the moment, or a bike shed that is a lot of money is
Well, there
spent
was
on
that
that.
printer, and it's just like, oh my God, it's really frustrating. But yeah, it would be great, because like you said, nowadays, like, time is money, and in order to create something good, you really do need to be able to immerse yourself and luxuriate in it. It's so hard to do that when you're running on fumes, or you're trying to juggle so many other responsibilities.
And it's too much to ask of people. We're expected to do it all. We're expected to be the department of funding and actually write the applications. We're expected to be the department of marketing, where we actually have to advertise our own work. We're expected to be the director, the producer, the choreographer, the writer, the movement director, the props maker, the set designer. We're expected to do it all, and we're expected to do it with a smile on our face and be so grateful. And
we're the lucky ones.
Almost like that, asking for money is rude, because, well, you've been given this experience or this chance. We're not going to pay you, but you're going to get exposure. I think it's really hard. Now it's gotten to that point where you only do that work if it's like a really good friend, because I can't do it otherwise. You'd be doing it for everyone, and then suddenly you're doing so much free art, and it's all out there, and it's all great, and it's all beautiful, but you're still sitting at home being like, I'd love to be able to get like a meal deal and not have to sweat about it. Oh, look at that, now I'm
Or buy your
ranting,
friend
it's
a
all
drink
ended on a
and not
very
worry about it.
depressing
Or
note. That was
no,
not the
no,
aim of this.
no. But I love hearing this, because I think also it's such an isolating. I find it such an isolating experience, and obviously I'm like a writer first and foremost, so it is naturally solitary. But the feeling is always, and because it's so opaque, like this, the money world of the arts, you're like, you equate success with money, and that's also often not the case either, particularly in the world of books. One more person comes into my master's and tells us that there is no more money in books. So I just find it so refreshing when you hear other people say, like, yeah, it's really hard, when people who are like established and doing well, or like trying, because you do just feel like Sisyphus just like pushing up that hill. I'm noticing it now. Yes, I have made all of these choices, but it doesn't mean that it's not difficult sometimes. If you like go on holidays with friends, or go out for dinner with friends, and you're just like, we are operating off different budgets. You feel like because you've made this choice that that's just the way it is. But I just fundamentally reject that. I don't know what it's going to take for work in the arts to be properly recognized as an integral public service and to be paid as such. But then teachers aren't paid enough, nurses aren't paid enough. Like, so many really important professions are not getting their financial dues. And like, money does buy happiness. It does. Like, if all your basic needs can be met and you don't have this like existential angst over money all of the time, money can save you from that, and it can just naturally make you happier.
Oh yeah, you need a certain amount of money to live, and if you can't get that, you're just going to be stressed all the time. Thank you so much, Holly, for coming on. It's been absolutely delightful talking to you. I saw your show. It was brilliant. It's hilarious. I do hope it does get expanded and comes back in whatever shape or form that is. And please let me know, because I will definitely be in the audience.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This has been so lovely. I was listening to your podcast today, and I will keep listening. It's really, really good and really, really heartening. And the work that you're doing is like really important. And I just want to say I really appreciate it, because I know it's a lot of effort, but it was really lovely just to kind of have a space. Like, I want to know how people got to where they are. Again, I'm so interested in like the machinations, and so the format is just so lovely of how people have evolved and are continuing to evolve. Just the different careers that are out there. That's the thing. I'm just like, no one told me that you could be XYZ, you know, or that you didn't even need to just be one thing, that you can be all these multi-hyphenates. Like, I didn't know that job existed. So thank you for that.
No problem. Thank you so much.